Speak with confidence. Tips to instantly captivate your audience. Our ancestors gave birth to a new nation on this continent, dedicated to the idea of freedom and the assertion that all men are created equal. This phrase, which opens the Gettysburg Address, is today recognized as one of the greatest speeches ever given. Surprisingly, this speech by President Abraham Lincoln was also one of the shortest. If you appreciate the video you watch and want to help us continue creating interesting content, we kindly ask you to consider the idea of subscribing to our channel and leaving us a donation to support us. Thanks to your support, we will be able to continue improving and offering you new insights. You can do it here below, through the appropriate buttons, subscribe, and thanks. Why is Abraham Lincoln's speech so great? Among other figures in history, Martin Luther King Jr. was praised for his activism and his fight for civil rights. However, he is remembered most for his "I Have a Dream" speech. This famous quote was not actually part of his speech during the March on Washington. It was a gospel singer who had already heard MLK tell this dream to a crowd of 250,000 people in Detroit. The rest, of course, is history. The two speeches have something in common. One might think they were born with charisma. But what about those of us who weren't? Mahatma Gandhi, Thomas Jefferson, Joel Osteen, to name a few. Confidence in public speaking begins with developing self-confidence in everyday life. Later, we will explore ways to increase self-confidence, especially when speaking in public. We will also share some proven tips to help you calm your nerves when speaking in public. After all, you might be surprised to know that most people are more nervous when they think about speaking in front of a crowd than when they think about dying. Now, like Martin Luther King, let's start moving in the right direction to realize our dreams. What is self-confidence? Self-confidence is, for the most part, feeling comfortable in your own skin. It may sound a bit simplistic, but bear with me. When you look in the mirror and feel that it's okay as it is, you are truly self-confident. You realize your abilities, your positive qualities, and your value in the world without needing reassurance from a third party. Before you can speak confidently in public, you need to develop a basic confidence in yourself in everyday life. Let's now look at some ways to increase self-confidence, especially when speaking in public. Walking with your head held high is a surefire way to gain self-confidence. Here's why. When your back is straight, your head is high, your chest is open, and you are vulnerable to the world. In the most primitive sense of the term, this indicates to everyone present that you are not at all concerned about potential threats. Most people spend their lives running from problems. When you walk with big steps, you show those around you that, even if problems come, you are ready to face them. This is literally a step of confidence and has an impact on your mood. When you hold your back straight, your brain follows and releases positive endorphins, bringing out the strong person within you. If you don't believe me, you can trust science. Let's move on to the next point. Taking care of yourself is another foolproof way to increase self-confidence. Self-confidence is almost intrinsic. Even if you really care about how others see you, self-confidence is actually about how you see yourself. It makes sense that you feel good after taking a nice shower and wearing nice clothes. Unfortunately, most of us tend to ignore this simple axiom when we are in a hurry. However, the more we take care of ourselves, the better we feel about ourselves. Of course, you don't need to wear expensive perfumes or $1,000 clothes. You should dress in a way that makes you feel good about yourself, rather than just checking your reflection in the store window as you go to the office to make sure you're not as dirty as you think. So, ask yourself some basic questions. Who do you want to be? What kind of person are you at the end of the day? Do you laugh a lot? Are you always kind to waiters? Whether it's a CEO, an award-winning screenwriter, or the funniest guy at the party, each of us has our own idea of who we want to be on the best day of our lives. One way to gain self-confidence is to gradually become that person. Think about what you can do now to bring that person to life. If you are aware of who you want to be and change the things that distract you from your ideal self, you will naturally gain self-confidence. We all have an inner critic. Many of us are so used to listening to this inner critic that we begin to confuse it with our true self. No, I won't talk to that girl. I have no chance of convincing her that I exist. I'm not kidding, This dress is too short. This dress is too short. Our inner critic may seem like it's trying to help us be our best, but often it encourages us to be exactly like everyone else. If we listen to it too closely, this inner critic can spiral out of control and start shouting. The way to gain self-confidence is to make sure this voice that we spend so much time listening to supports us and doesn't prevent us from realizing our dreams. To feel more confident, always give yourself positive reinforcement and advice on how to improve. You wouldn't be friends with someone who constantly puts you down, would you? So, why do the same to yourself? Now that you know what it takes to be confident in everyday life, how can you apply it to public speaking? How can you learn to speak better and more confidently? Speaking confidently in public. Just because you feel more confident talking to pretty girls at the supermarket doesn't mean you'll feel comfortable in front of a packed auditorium. Public speaking is an art and requires skills and experience to be fully mastered. Learning to speak confidently in public means knowing what works and what doesn't and how to control your nerves. Remember that everyone gets nervous when trying to speak in front of a large audience. So was Gandhi, so was Barack Obama. And both needed a lot of practice before becoming the legendary speakers we remember today. The first step to speaking confidently in public is to examine your excuses. What's holding you back? Why are you afraid? Often we have the idea that we need the attention of many people at once. And if the person sitting in the third row thinks I'm boring, I have news for you. There's a reason why he's not on stage and you are on stage. He's afraid. In fact, most people are afraid of speaking in front of a large audience. This means that at least you and your audience have something in common. When you start thinking this way, you realize that you're not that different from the people in front of you. Above all, when speaking in front of a large audience, don't think that you are completely free from fear and nervousness. Even the best speakers talk about being nervous in public. So, why not accept fear and nervousness? After all, they are proof that you are doing something truly important. You can go home, to bed, and watch Netflix for the other 364 days of the year, but today is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to share who you are. If you still feel too anxious in front of an audience, start creating a preparation routine that will help you stay focused despite the anxiety. Get the information you need and give yourself time to practice. Speak to mirrors and family members and rehearse your speech. The more prepared you are, the less likely you are to fall to the ground when you feel the eyes of the audience on you. Even when you step onto the stage, which is the most feared moment in the life of a speaker, think about it. By the way, showing the audience that you are relaxed, even when looking for your next idea, will convince them that it's worth listening to you. Moreover, when you're in front of an audience, don't try to speak to everyone, but only to one person at a time. In any crowd, some people will listen carefully to everything you say, while others will not. It's not your problem, it's a numbers game. We all know a guy in high school who sleeps during lessons. You are arguing in his favor. Or for someone whose life might really change because of what you say. When you start speaking, look at the crowd and find someone who is focused on what you have to say. Maybe that person will lean forward and continue to make eye contact with you. Speak as if that person were the only one in the audience and the others were not paying attention to you. This can temporarily alleviate anxiety. Be careful not to stay too long with one person and involve as many like-minded people as possible. The great advantage is that what you're doing becomes a conversation. It's not about suddenly speaking to an audience of 300 people crammed into an auditorium. Rather, it's about approaching one person for a moment and having a conversation with them. By the way, you don't have to be a comedian to be a good speaker, but a little laughter never hurts. Don't bore the audience with just facts from beginning to end. Lighten the atmosphere with an occasional joke and make them feel that you're a normal person like them, even if you're the smartest person in the room. If people laugh at what you say, you gain confidence. If you say something that you think is funny and no one responds, you might even have the courage to tell a joke. Focus on what you're saying, listening carefully and following your train of thought. This will also help you speak confidently in public. Public speaking is about providing value to every member of the audience, and focusing on your message will help you. Listen to your voice so that the audience can hear what they are receiving from you while you speak, and have the courage to match your words to the message you are trying to convey. But don't just limit yourself to the tone of your voice. Sometimes, like me, you don't like the sound of your voice. Don't worry about this. Focus on what you're saying and what you want to say. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, try to develop a likable stage character that represents exactly what you're talking about. Speaking confidently in public is not just about being able to stand up in front of people and deliver the message you have prepared. It's about embodying the message you're trying to convey. Have you ever seen Kevin Hart perform? His words are funny, but his style of expression and delivery can make you die laughing just because it's him. Another good example is Dan Whitney, better known as Larry the Cable Guy. None of his jokes are innovative or revolutionary, but by creating a stage character that people recognize and immediately relate to, Dan Whitney manages to captivate a packed, noisy, and drunken audience with jokes that most schoolchildren can think of. To make your message tangible, you need to understand the meaning of your message and be passionate about it. Use your best speaking and human qualities to convey your message. At the same time, discover what your intrinsic and distinctive qualities are and use them when speaking to an audience. Public speaking is an art that must be learned, and one of the key skills to learn is self-confidence. Once you feel comfortable in your own skin, speaking in public is no longer so difficult. When you stand up in front of an audience to speak, you need to have a solid mastery of the topic, embody the message, make jokes, and, above all, accept the nervousness and fear you feel. Fighting fear is often counterproductive for public speaking. This is because fear gets inside you and makes you sweat and shake through your pores. When you're in front of the crowd, feel and acknowledge the butterflies in your stomach, stand tall, and interrupt them with a funny joke. Remember that this is the best night of your life. Thank you for watching. Share your personal experience on today's topic with us. Write it in the comments and ask us any questions you may have, we will be happy to answer. Leave a comment so that we can perfect our creations. We will be happy with your simple like, but the most important thing is not to forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming videos.